Sure. Next slide. So the issues here, and if any of y'all are in construction, solar in particular is interconnection. That a lot of times will make or break your project. Is how much do I have to change to do the interconnect? You go into an older building like this, typically the switchgear is in need of an upgrade, and switchgear is very expensive. And then the other issue is permitting. Fortunately, Houston, for the most part, they have a very easy way to permit solar on the residential side. So on the commercial side, you know, they know they do it on the residential side, so the commercial guys we're pretty easy to work with and very tolerant. Where we ran into an issue on permitting was with FEMA. So the floodplain out there is about 83 feet. For FEMA stuff, because it was like there's a ratio with the value of the building and the value of the project. So FEMA got involved, and you can imagine what kind of nightmare that was. Everything new essentially had to be 2 feet above floodplain. So the inverter pad here, we had to put on a pedestal and build 2 feet up. The car chargers, each one of those is on a 2-foot pedestal. And then we did not make our interconnection at the switchgear, the existing switchgear out near, let's see, to the far right side of there. The transformer and center point meter is off to the right about 50 yards. And so we piped all the way, all our PV circuits, we piped them all the way to the right and then made a hard turn and then came back to the inverter pad, to the inverter, and then to the breaker box, and then went back out, basically straight behind Art there, back to the field, past the parking lot, and set a new 1200 amp service. And all that was done with underground boring. It was fairly interesting. The bore guys, those guys were good. Ran a whole bunch of new conduits, and because of the FEMA rule, if we were to go to where, so Andy here on the right, about 20 yards behind him is the existing facility's main service. So if we were to go and make our interconnections, we would have to put everything on a pedestal. Everything in there that we touched, we had to put on a pedestal. And when you get into these huge buildings, the copper conductors are about as thick as my arm, and they don't have much play, so we had to go 2 feet up. Well, the conductors were too short. And it's like, do you pull new conductors? So the answer is no. It was cheaper to set a new service out by the transformer.
You said that the floodplain is 83 feet, so is this place 81 feet in elevation?
No, it was at 83, but because of the value or whatever, we had to go, they just made us go 2 feet above the 100-year floodplain. So we had to set everything at 85. So I'm not, like I said, it had to do with something about the cost of the project versus the cost of the building.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I was wondering about the 83 feet or the 85 feet. Is that elevation above sea level?
Yes, that's at 83. That's the sea level. I guess it's 83 feet above sea level, and we had to go 2 feet above that.
Okay.
It's all related to our national flood insurance system. That's why they have these rules. So.
And another issue with all the core drilling we did, all the piers are level with the concrete, because if you disperse any more area, then the water can't go, and so the people of the city of Houston, were very clear about the piers had to be flush, or we had to go dig a big pit behind Smith and Associates for water retainment, catchment, or whatever, to offset the amount of surface area that we raised. Anyways, that's Smith project in a nutshell.
What percentage of the load of that building is
about 15%?
I'm sorry,
About 15%. And so with the roof, and they added a brand new HVAC system. So the HVAC system cut the load by about 30%, and then we cut it with solar about, I think it's closer to 12%, and then the roof is about 1%.
Do you have any kind of reserve system like batteries or anything?
No, there's no backup out there. Straight grid tie. Yes, sir.
I know you have different modules, different times. Is there any overall sense of the payback period for this?
I believe return on investment on this project, I believe, is roughly, I want to say 11 years.
These warranties for what, 20 years?
Yes, inverters are 10. So,
You want to talk a little more about the trade embargo as well?
the what?
The trade embargo, a lot of people don't know that there's actually a solar trade embargo now.
Would you change the picture first? Thank you.
There's a solar trade embargo, so a couple of U.S. manufacturers, they call it an anti-dumping suit, discrimination suit. So they've gone to the Department of Commerce and they're basically suing the Chinese companies that are what they call dumping their panels in the U.S. because the Chinese panel manufacturers are putting them in at prices pretty substantially below what the U.S. manufacturers are making at, which is causing a lot of them to fail and not be competitive, which is kind of what happened to Solyndra in a big nutshell. It's helping the solar industry because the Chinese panel manufacturers are driving the cost down, but the U.S. manufacturers really don't like it, so.
Well, but they're, in order for it to be dumping, they have to prove that they are selling it less than the cost of manufacturing.
And in some cases they are.
Right.
Because China, the government is actually subsidizing the
Subsidizing.
manufacturing process, so in a lot of cases they probably will prove that that is the case. But look for prices to go back up on solar really fast because what's going to happen is the Chinese manufacturers are either going to find another way to get it in. They're already moving their operations to Taiwan and other places like Japan who don't have a negative relationship with the United States. But it's going to put an additional tariff and additional cost on the Chinese solar panels. So the panels now that may make it down to $1 a watt will soon be up to $1.60 a watt in no time.
And how long do you, how long does this process take? I mean,
We'll probably see within the next year and a half, go back the opposite direction. Prices are already starting to go up.
Prices are already going up because Germany had the best month ever in December. They put in 3 gigawatts
Right.
of solar, which is more than the U.S. market essentially in 1 month. So,
And Germany's about the size of what, Connecticut?
something like
no,
that.
no, it's bigger than that.
Do you think the Chinese product is high quality?
The Chinese product? Some of them are. Some of them are. Some of them are really good quality.
Your big five are, the banks will finance utility scale projects on the big five, like Suntech, Trina, LDK, Canadian Solar, Yingli. Those are definitely bankable modules. And so it's hard for somebody to look at the numbers in the U.S. and want to use a U.S. manufactured module when you can get a Chinese one that is damn near as good as a U.S. manufactured module, and when the costs are so much less.
And when you kind of think about it, it goes the exact opposite of what we normally do. You go to the grocery store and you see an item that you use all the time and put it on sale, you stock up and buy more. Here they're trying to keep it out.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. It does, but they have a point. The Chinese government, Suntech, is the largest manufacturer of traditional modules in the world, and they are definitely subsidized by the Chinese. So, I don't know. I don't. The Commerce Department's got their hands full. That's for sure.
You mentioned monitoring. Is any of the data on the internet, or will it be?
I looked today, so the data is not available publicly. So it's monitored with the DEC monitoring system. Every inverter is. They have a weather station out there, so it has an anemometer, it has temperature measurements on the back of the modules, and all the data. It's not available publicly, unfortunately.
Any other questions for Will?
Yes, sir.
One or two more?
Going back to the Carport figure, do they figure that the cost of the electricity is that this thing produces?
I don't know what if you look at it at 20 years from now, my understanding is solar is already less expensive than coal or natural gas because you do not have to hedge. It's a fixed cost for 20 years. when you associate the insurance cost with hedging on your power, 20 years down the road, solar is already less expensive.
I mean, do we have just a price per kilowatt hour?
I mean, I don't, the whole project cost was about $2 million. We put in 160 kilowatts. I'm not sure what it generates in a day. I'm assuming it's about 12 cents a kilowatt hour. But that's an assumption.
So, does anybody know what it would come?
Well, if you looked at the monitoring and the cost, you could put it in a model and model it out and assume 1% degradation per year and that kind of stuff.
If you look at the tax benefits, it's usually coming in at 6 or 7 actually, which is below the cost of standard grid power. You got the 30% tax credit in this case. It's probably.
Well, it's a commercial too, so they're allowed to depreciate it. And Smith being so big, they need, they're very profitable, so they need tax. They have tax appetite for this kind of stuff, so they can take it as a loss when essentially it's not. They have 12% of their power guaranteed at a set rate every year. So, yes, sir.
We're gonna talk about the bifacial module on the carport.
Uh-huh.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Who's the manufacturer? And
There's Sanyo.
Sanyo, and what kind of efficiency are we looking at, being that they are bifacial?
Shoot, I think when if you're actually hitting 230 watts, they're in the 20% efficiency range, 21%.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you, I walked in late, sorry, but can you go back to that picture so I can see it?
The carport,
Yes, sir.
And how about cost-wise? I mean,
they're expensive, and they're extremely heavy because they have glass on both sides. So if you look at, if you go to their spec sheet, and I'm sorry to put it on here, they're really good for pergola type applications, porches at a residence. Pergolas in front of a swimming pool because you do get reflected light off the swimming pool. Those Sanyo modules will cook. People use them for skylighting. They're expensive. I don't know. SunPower makes a 230 watt, now a 240 watt module. That's about 21% efficient, and it's not bifacial. So I don't know, and I don't know what the price point on those bifacial ones are. I know they're expensive.
Where's the cabling?
All right, so it's hard to see. On the carport, on the back side of the carport, you can see that silver streak on the right gap, and on the left too. So we had to we took some of the C channel and just welded it there, and we ran all the conduit on the back side for aesthetic purposes, obviously, because there's with feeding all the car chargers, and then all the 3 combiners.
It's housed on the back side.
It's on the back, yes.
And what does it power? The lights,
Well, it's a grid tie system, so it powers whatever.
Okay.
It feeds the service.
Any other questions?
Just to repeat the total cost, 1.2 million?
No, it was in the $2 million range.
2 million.
that was 2 million?
Well, there's that, and then there's all the. I don't know if I have there's all of this up here too.
So you don't have a breakdown for the carport?
I believe the carport was in the neighborhood of the high $4 a watt range, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the total install cost, is what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Carport and everything?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Will. Excellent presentation. Appreciate it, guys.